What's up, guys? I'm Tyler. I'm here in Denver with Garrett Maier. We're at his shop, and today we're going to talk about his 1968 Shovelhead. How did you get into bikes?
Can't remember exactly how, but I came across like the old Chop Cult forums back in the day when it was like still just the forums. And I just like kind of went down the rabbit hole and was like seeing some bikes or whatever. In my hometown, there wasn't a lot of bikes, but I grew up like going to car races and stuff like that, like down to Daytona and Sebring. You know, like Daytona has always had bikes and everything, you know, like year round. And I can't remember the exact chopper that I saw, but I just remember seeing like a chopper kind of, I think for the first time, but like a real chopper, not like a big wheel, like ugly ass chopper, like a real one.
Yeah.
On the Chop Cult forums. And I don't know, it just stirred something in me. And I was just like, I have to get one. I have to build one.
And how long did it take you to build?
Quite a while, honestly. Like once I started the assembly process, it went pretty quick. I'd say I probably built it over like 3 months or so, 4 months. But I culminated the parts together for a while, probably like 5 years I was collecting.
5 years?
Yeah.
What was the first thing you got?
It was the motor. So I bought this motor down south in Durango, and I've always wanted a slab side shovel. It's like my favorite motor out of all of them. And I went to go buy this motor. It was completely in pieces. And when I got there, bought it, yada, yada, talked bullshit with a guy for a little bit. And I got the title, and the title was out of my hometown in Florida. Which I was just like, this is destiny.
What's your hometown?
Tallahassee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and buying it like in southern Colorado, like literally in the middle of nowhere. And just getting that title, I was like, okay, was like, I was supposed to have this motor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Did you buy it with a whole bike, or was it just the motor?
It was just the motor. Yeah, it was just the motor.
Okay, so you had the motor on ice for a few years, and then what came next?
The tanks. So I bought like a basket case panhead, probably a little bit around that same time, and the tanks came with it, and they just like painted by some old timer who had been sitting in a shed forever. They're like filled with rat shit. You know, just like your very stereotypical like barn find stuff. And they were so bad that they're amazing. Like the flames was just like something that drew me to them. And so I kind of knew that I had wanted to like build a bike around these being the centerpiece.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How long did it take to clean all the gunk out of them? What'd you do?
I'm still cleaning it out. I'm still cleaning it out.
Well, because everyone has like their own different way, you know. Like I don't like the red coat, but there's people that swear by the red coat. You know, there's all sorts. Like I've had tanks, and I've just put like a bunch of nuts and bolts and like gasoline in them, and just shaken it up and then drained them, and that usually does it for me. But you know. Yeah,
I did vinegar and like nuts and bolts soak for a while. Lots of compressed air, water. Yeah, they actually like blew out on the inside last year, like hours before a trip that we were gonna go on. So I like had to weld those up and everything, but they're doing good now. So. Okay,
so you had the tanks on ice, you had the motor, and then how did you kind of decide? Like, did you have this bike in mind, or do you think? Because I mean, over 5 years, like. Personally, I think something's cool, and then in 5 years, I think it's, you know what I mean? Like the views change so much. So how did you kind of come to this?
For sure. So I kind of always had the vision in my mind of something, of how I wanted to build it. I was super into tough guy choppers, and this is like a very classic, kind of tough-esque, but like more so classic than like the dual disc, like kind of, you know, disc brakes, whatever type deal. This is like kind of different from that I usually am into. But I kind of wanted to just keep it very narrow and tight and kind of like period-esque with also like putting it on my own spin on things, I guess, kind of per se. So that's kind of like what inspired me. And then just like other friends' bikes and just like mags and old pictures and stuff like that. Just like really keeping the idea of like kind of what I wanted. So, and then just like happened chance into like every little piece at like a different time that just kind of made it come together in the perfect way.
Yeah.
So
I would say that. So I mean, I'm assuming the tanks are your favorite part of the bike.
Yeah, 100%. I would say the second favorite is probably my carburetor. So it's an SNSL. I just really love the way they look. My buddy Chase got me on them. So they're cool for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the L with the bread box, like, looks great. I'm sure runs great.
Yeah.
I like that. I love the throttle situation right here, too.
Yeah, this is like an old Zell cover. I bought it off a dude in San Francisco, and it all came through as like one piece. And so I guess they used to like sell these for it, or maybe it was like brazed on. I'm not exactly sure, but it like works perfectly and it looks really cool.
Yeah.
So, which I like really appreciate about that.
Super rad detail I like about it.
Yeah.
And did you make the seat yourself?
So I shaped the seat pan, and I had a guy coat it like here locally, who does like all the homie seats.
And why so skinny?
Honestly, I just felt like it and went with the bike. Everyone jokes about it and they kind of call it the coffin thong. And yeah, I vibe with it. A lot of people talk shit on it, and I can see why. But once you have the pack up there and you're on the road, it's like you're in the cockpit. It's very comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And are you going to put foot pegs on it, or are you kind of running it?
As of right now, no. I kind of like the way that it feels. I mean, on the other side of the bike, I got the rocker clutch, so my foot rests mostly on that all the time, and then I'll rest my foot on the cam cover. I have thought about putting a foot peg maybe on this side just for ease, but I haven't like really dedicated myself to that yet.
Yeah. I mean, I never had foot pegs on my panhead till like a couple months ago, and there's something cool about not having them. I don't know what it is, and it's so unpractical, but I totally get it, you know?
Yeah.
And you're a machinist by trade.
Yes.
And would you say, like, how has a motorcycles affected you either becoming a machinist or just your job in general? Like, what part of that, you know, how do they play off each other?
So I honestly attribute me becoming a machinist all to motorcycles. I probably got into bikes when I was like choppers hardcore, like 17, 18. I bought my first bike, I think, when I was like 22 or 23, just a little Sportster, and I didn't know shit. And I still like don't know a lot, you know, like I learn every single day and I just try to learn. And the thing that got me kind of going to become a machinist was I apprenticed like under Old Head for a little bit, learning how to build motors. And one of the integral parts for rebuilding motors is like machining and everything. And I'm just very much the type that like, if I'm gonna do something, I wanna go and learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what actually got me into the trade, was like going down that road to like be able to do the things that I needed to do by myself.
Yeah.
So I don't have to like send it out and rely on someone. So that's kind of what like got me into the whole entire thing.
Yeah. So your whole career, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's like based off choppers. Yeah, which is ironic. So I actually do really love machining now that I'm in it, but like this is definitely was the inspiration for it.
Yeah, I think that's what's really cool about this, like this whole thing in general, is it's so easy. And I talk about it with people all the time, but it's so easy for it to be like all consuming.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's so much out there to look at, and like it no matter how much time you spend like learning about it and looking at things and riding and wrenching and whatever, it's just like never enough.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of why I think it's like one of those lifelong things where you just dedicate yourself to it, and every time you do it, like make a new thing, inspiration, whatever, it just gets better and better and better. but you can never fully master it because there's always something else to learn.
Yeah.
And that's like the incredible thing about choppers, and like why I love just like being in the garage with my homies and doing stuff like that. It's because like everyone's got a different idea. Everyone has a different way of doing something, and there's always something to learn. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to the bike a little bit. So you have the jockey lid tranny.
Yeah.
Was that intentional? Did you just like them, or did you just have one? What were the thoughts on that?
I had never ridden one before. And one of my buddies had one, and I thought the concept was really cool because like I like how it stays in gear while you're kind of going, and I just like think the idea of you looking down and your shifter's like at 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock or whatever it is,
yeah,
and you're still just going down the road was really cool. And so I found that lid and rebuilt that whole entire transmission and put the lid on it and just kind of went through it, and it works really good. And then I paired it with the rocker clutch, which I like love that combo because it's super forgiving.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just really like it. I had never ridden one before this, and I think it's really sweet.
I'm a huge fan of them too. I think like I love when you see photos of people and they have it all the way forward. You know they were like in fourth when the photo was taken.
Yeah.
Like it makes it that much sweeter, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Is it a dual 19 setup?
Yeah, dual 19s.
The dual 19 Star Hub is extremely gangster.
Yeah, I fucking love it, honestly. A couple years back, I was up in Northern California for the Death Traps party, and some kid rode up from Sacramento, and he had this cone shovel with a 33 front end, and it was on dual 19s, and it was just like the leanest, meanest bike. And I was just like so inspired by it. Like I took a picture of it and I just thought it was like one of the coolest bikes I've ever seen. And I was like, if I like next bike that I build, I like have to pull from that inspiration. And so like
You're talking about Zach?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was literally in Sac like a couple months ago, and we were gonna film a video on that bike, but like our schedules didn't quite align. But that's one of my favorite bikes like ever. Like every time I'm up north and I see it, I'm just like so hyped. So
that's hilarious. Yeah, I love that bike. It was so cool. So cool. And you don't ever see like a lot of green choppers. And it's like that real dark, like almost like British racing green, which is like one of my favorite colors.
Yeah.
And I just love the stance of that bike. And I was like, man, I definitely have to like try and pull off the dual 19. And I thought it worked so perfectly with this bike too.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does.
I was a little worried. When I first mocked it all up, I had some like shitty little dinky tire on the back. Not that like A&S Firestone. And I texted my buddy, it was either Jack or Bo, and I texted him a picture and I was like, fuck dude, I hate this bike. Like I do not like this bike. And I was so worried, and I left the shop, went home that night, ordered the Firestone, like second day air, got in, put it on, and like mocked it all back up. And I was like, okay, I actually really like this stance now. But like with that tire on there, it just did not work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it sits perfectly now.
It's funny how those little things can affect like the bike overall so much.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just like, we say it all the time. It's like a tire can change the tone of a bike. A seat can change the tone of a bike. Just like little things, bars, headlight.
Yeah.
Can like really set something off that you don't think is that big, but like it can be a big deal.
Absolutely. And are these old Barneys?
No, so these are Milwaukee Cycle products.
Okay.
So from Benny.
Cool.
I was lucky to get a set. Someone was just like selling them. They went a different route. I think these are 4-overs on a narrow 41. And I had been wanting to do this setup for a long time. And I had these trees for a while too.
Yeah, do you know what those trees are? Or they just...
I have no idea. I think they're like maybe some old Triumph trees or something like that. I've seen a couple of sets around, but I knew that when I got these, I like wanted to build a front end specifically around them for this bike because I just really love that narrow 41 look with the Barney's lowers.
Yeah.
I just like I'm such a sucker for it.
Yeah. So do you have to modify the trees to fit the 41s and do all that?
So luckily, no. These fit. I did have to like machine some spacers and stuff like that because I'm running like older panhead tubes, so they like sit up higher and everything.
Yeah.
So like I just had to do some like minor just like machining spacers for stuff like that. But luckily it wasn't that big of a deal. I had to like turn this axle down, but besides that, like I pretty much just slapped it together, which
That's
is really
awesome.
nice. Yeah. It was super nice.
Cool. Well, I think we covered pretty much everything on the bike. Anything else you want to talk about?
I will point out another one of my favorite pieces on this bike is this old oil tank. It might be kind of hard to see in the shot, but someone moved it for a side fill and like brazed it all up, and you can really see the brazing, which I think is super tight. But that's kind of the last little piece.
I like that you left it raw too.
Yeah.
Like instead of like spray painting it black or something, like it matches kind of the pipes and how like it all kind of has the same look.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was going for. So just like kind of keeping it like older looking, you know?
And do you have any plans to build anything else, or what's next on the horizon?
So yeah, I do have a couple of plans. I got like a project cone shovel that I'm kind of throwing around right now. And then I have a Denver Survivor that ideally is like up next on the chopping block. So I'm kind of like rebuilding the motor right now.
Yeah.
So that hopefully will be the next thing that I got going.
Sick.
Yeah.
And then every year you organize a run.
Yeah.
RMR. I've heard some stories.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain Run. It was kind of cool. I just, nothing like that happens here. Like we didn't get a show until a couple years ago. We have a big swap meet every year, but there's like a lot of motorcyclists here and a lot of chopper guys here, but nothing ever really goes on, and I just really wanted to throw something on for like me and my buddies. That was just like a good weekend trip where you just go, you're on your choppers and you're just having fun, feet in the wind, like just dicking off. And that's kind of what I wanted to throw. And this year will be the fourth one, I think.
Sick.
That we've done, and I look forward to it every year. It's just like a good summer starter, honestly.
Yeah. And you got this done right before it last year, right?
Literally, like, I think 3 weeks beforehand. Yeah. 3 weeks beforehand. So that was fun. This year, it'll actually make it the whole trip.
What happened last year?
I was coming down Loveland Pass, and I didn't adjust my brake linkage, and I put new pads in that morning. And I could tell they were rubbing a little bit, but I was like, whatever, I just want to get to camp, yada, 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 and then we'll fix it there. And I was coming down Loveland Pass, and it was like wet and rainy, and I tapped on my brakes, and the brake stay popped out and like completely locked up. Probably fishtailed for like 15 feet, 10 feet. And was like corrected it and was like able to ride it back down into town without any brakes. Probably the most butt puckering moment of my life on a bike, I think.
And I'm sure that skinny seat didn't help either.
No, definitely not. I was fucking wet and cold, and it was like, yeah, it was chill though. Yeah.
Sick.
And you ripped off the shrooms too.
Yeah, that didn't help either.
Damn.
That didn't help either.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you, Garrett.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you.
Sick.